Hey guys, Emma here. Welcome back to my allotment videos. In this video, I'm going to be sharing some things that you can do on your allotment plot over the winter months. Now, winter does sort of feel like a bit of a dead time, so if you want to just stay home in the warm with a nice cup of tea and not go to your plot until the springtime comes and the sun comes back out, then that is well within your rights. But if you're like me and you're a bit of a doer, you want to get out there and get some things done, winter's a great time for that. It's the more jobs that you do in winter, the easier your spring and summer on the allotment will be. So I'm just going to go through a few things that I'm going to be doing over the winter months, and I hope that you find them helpful. So if you do go down to your plot at the moment, you might find that a lot of your neighbouring plots have covered over their beds. And this might be with some plastic ground sheet, it could be with cardboard, you can see some pallets over these ones. Why do they do it, and should you be doing it too? I've actually decided to cover over all the beds on my allotment plot that don't have anything growing in it over the winter time this year. It's the first year that I've ever done this. It's a bit of an experiment. Now, the reason why you should cover your beds is so it keeps in all the nutrients and goodness in the soil, which can be lost if they're not covered. It can actually also help to keep weeds down. So as the springtime comes around, you'll notice a lot of weeds start to spring up everywhere. So if your beds are covered with something, that's less likely to happen, if at all, who knows. And another reason, of course, is that it can help to warm your soil up a bit earlier. So you might find that you actually get to do some spring planting earlier than you thought, because the soil will be nice and warm and ready for plants. If you're not happy to use plastic, you don't have to. You could use a nice thick layer of cardboard, and cardboard has the added benefit that it's actually quite good for your soil. And you don't have to just pull it up again. You could cover it over with a nice thick layer of compost, and then when the springtime comes, you could grow straight into it. If you do that, just make sure to water it really well, and that will just help it to break up and make sure all the roots of new plants can go through it. So that's an added bonus. Or of course, you could mulch your beds really thickly. If you've got Christmas tree cuttings or clippings, or an old Christmas tree that you're getting rid of, that's a really good thing to mulch your beds over with. You could also use fallen leaves from the tree, some manure, a bag of compost. Whatever you use, just make sure it's a nice thick layer, and that will just do all the good stuff that I said about earlier. Winter is of course the perfect time to put in any bare root fruiting plants I should say. Things like raspberries, rhubarb, blackcurrants, all of these can go in now over the winter time. They look a bit scary, don't they, when they come like this as bare root plants, because you just think, how on earth is that going to grow into anything? But they do, they really do. So the general rule of thumb when you're planting bare root fruit bushes is to bury it twice as deep as the roots and 3 times as wide. And I guess that's just to help it get going a bit and make sure that it's really in the ground and that it's got room to wiggle about and spread its roots out. But twice as deep, 3 times as wide. That's all you really need to know about them. Just whack them in. I like to feed the birds all year round. If you're not feeding the birds in the winter, what are you doing with your life? It is one of the most rewarding jobs on my allotment plot, is just feeding the birds and all the wildlife really, and looking after them. You can be creative. I made these little apple bird feeders which turned into squirrel feeders because the squirrels absolutely loved them, but that's all good. Whatever you feed the wildlife at this time of year, they will be so thankful for, because obviously food sources are a little bit sparse at the moment, and yeah, they'll just be really happy for whatever you can give them. Fat balls are also a really great thing for birds. It fills them up and it gives them all the nutrients they need to get through the winter months. But let's not neglect the habitats. So I made this little wildlife tripod, which was a little bit fiddly, but I got the hang of it. You just make a little tripod with sticks and then fill it with lots of dead material, leaves and sticks and things. It's a great little habitat for wildlife. And if you have a wildlife pond, do make sure that you are breaking up the ice so that all your creatures that come to your plot can get a nice drink. keep composting. If you don't have a compost bay, now is the time to make one, guys. Trust me, I made that mistake of not having a proper composting area for years, and I finally made one this year. It's a great time to keep topping it up if you've got any old vegetables from Christmas or any crops that need chopping up and throwing in there. I've added a great big pile of manure as well, which is a great thing to add because it really helps to heat up your compost. And I'll get in trouble if I don't say this, but leave it alone. Cover it over and let it do its thing. It's a good idea at this time of year to clean out your gutters around your sheds and stuff and make sure that the water can get through, and then fill up a great big water thing like that. Now this is just an old bin, it's not a water butt, so I need to cover it in the springtime when it gets warmer to stop it from evaporating, but also I need to put a little bit of netting or something over it to stop animals from drowning in there. So what I actually might do, yeah, is use netting. Let's get some netting. Yes, there we go. Right, there we go. We've got the chicken wire, the garden mesh over it. It's all working. Good. It's also the perfect time of year to go around and fix anything that needs fixing. Take a little look at your shed roof, make sure it's not got any holes in it, hasn't fallen in. If it has, it's a good time to start replacing things. I always have to put my raised beds back together again because they fall apart, but this is just the perfect month to get all of those jobs done so that it's looking good and ready for springtime. It's also a great time of year to prune any fruit bushes or fruit trees that you have. So I've got an apple tree here which I've pruned, but my fruit bushes are a little bit young yet, so I'm not going to touch those. But it is a great time if you've got any fruit bushes that are more, you know, advanced in their life cycle. It's time to start cutting them back and pruning them. This is a good time of year to move any perennials that you've got or fruit bushes because they're not in active growth. My advice for if you're going to do this is don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Dig around it, dig a big hole. Try not to break the roots as you pull it up or break as little roots as you can, but just do it. Just whack it in, because you know what? It's got time to recover before spring. So do it now. Don't overthink it. Just pull it up and whack it in a new spot. Do you know what I mean? The plant will just have to cope. Just have to get on with it. Toughen up. Toughen up. You know, it's got to make your plants a little bit tougher. It's also a good time to plant any perennials. So if you buy one in the garden centre, now's a great time to get it in the ground. And guys, it's not too late to plant in your tulip bulbs if you haven't done it as well. In this bed behind me here, I planted in about 150 tulip bulbs, but I did it very early. A thing about tulips is that they need to go in a bit later. They need to go in when the weather is cold, like now. And because of our weird, crazy, confusing, don't understand what the weather's doing anymore weather, it doesn't seem to get cold until at least January. So I've sort of put all my tulips in November, thinking, oh, that's, you know, that's bulb planting time. And actually, it was probably too warm for the tulips to go in. I think it'd be worth it in the springtime. I think I'd be happy I did it. Right, tulip bulbs, really, really simple to plant. So here's tulip bulb. That's the tip, that's where it grows. Flat bit's the bottom where the roots come out. Needs to go at least 3 times its depth, so 1, 2, 3. I don't always do it 3 times the depth. I think just quite deep is really what you need to think. I mean, a lot of people panic about things like numbers, like depth and stuff. I think, you know, just quite deep. And also, if you haven't done it quite deep enough, get a big bag of compost or some mulch and just layer up the soil and do it that way. Do it the opposite way. So I hope this video has given you some ideas of a few jobs you can do over the winter months. And of course, if you've just got a brand new allotment plot, this is the perfect time to be down there clearing it all, putting in all the structure, sorting out your beds, topping them up with some fresh compost ready for the springtime. It's honestly, it's the best time to do it. So when the spring comes around, you'll be ready to grow into it, and you'd have done all those really tough, muddy, horrendous jobs, which is what I was busy doing this time last year. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. I'm going to be doing another one next Friday on all the seeds that I'm going to be sowing in the month of January. So join me for that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you again next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.